Need to ask Tanveena.
I think, Shubha, you want to...
Let me introduce, because you are such a multifaceted personality. Let our participants at least get to know you. I'm sure that you don't need any introduction.
Shubha, sorry to interrupt you. Can I...
Yeah, greetings everyone. A pleasant afternoon to all our participants in this post-lunch session on the 7th day of 2-week interdisciplinary refresher course on the quintessential educator, challenges and opportunities in a changing world, being organized by the IQAC of ARST College in collaboration with the Ministry of Education's PMMM and MTT Teaching Learning Center, Ramanujan College, University of Delhi. I, Dr. Shubha Dwivedi, extend a hearty welcome to what promises to be an extremely important conversation. I would like to call it a conversation because sir, our resource person for the day prefers to keep it interactive on contemporary approaches to teaching and learning. And for this, I have the great pleasure of introducing you to our scholarly resource person, a distinguished academician, Professor Malay Neerav, an alumnus of St. Stephen's College, Delhi, and School of Oriental and African Studies, University of London. Sir has earned the reputation of being a very sincere and serious academician who has pursued interdisciplinary studies in history, sociology, and psychology, besides being an ace broadcaster and broadcast journalist specializing in health, environment, and sports. He has served as a consultant editor to the BBC World Service and a senior analyst for several other media groups, including Prasar Bharati, Z Media, and Network 18. Sir has also worked as a consultant editor to the World Bank and has edited several volumes dealing with the different environment issues in India. Sir has been teaching history and mass communication at St. Stephen's College, University of Delhi, where he heads the Department of History. And besides that, he has also performed various administrative roles and has been associated with the university in the capacity of Joint Dean of Students' Welfare and Media Coordinator for the University of Delhi for nearly 3 years. He also served as the official spokesperson of Delhi University, as the coordinator of the Students' Empowerment Committee appointed by the Vice Chancellor. Dr. Neerav visited 47 colleges of Delhi University and collected the views of more than 9,500 students on the needs of the students and their experiences with hands-on learning and other innovative teaching methods, which were introduced as part of the well-planned pedagogical shift in the teaching learning process when the 4-year undergraduate program was introduced in University of Delhi. The findings of the committee had a far-reaching impact on the future planning of the university curriculum and potentials for undergraduate research, as well as restructuring of the graduate program. Many of those findings have been incorporated in the recently introduced new education policy of the Government of India. Sir has multifarious interests, and as a multifaceted personality, he has also shown his distinction as a broadcaster, as a sports journalist and analyst. He has even given voice to Olympic events and various other important sport programs, and he's still remembered and cherished by his listeners all over the world. He has produced many documentaries and features for the BBC. His series on health and environmental issues in India was widely acclaimed, and his radio feature on India population was selected as the best radio program by the World Population Council. Sir, it's my immense pleasure and honor to welcome you to this platform, and I'm sure that our participants are going to learn a lot from this innovative session. Over to you, sir.
Very good afternoon to Shubha and all my colleagues who are here. I deem it a very proud privilege to be with you this afternoon to share my experiences and also the challenges and opportunities which have been put forward before us by the current pandemic scenario which we have faced since last year. We all have been facing all kinds of problems with teaching, and the role of an educator has undergone a massive change and still needs to be transformed at several levels for being an effective educator and instructor. Now, I'm very thankful to Dr. Gyantosh Jha for having given me this opportunity to speak to you and my other colleagues who are organizing this. And I hope that I'll be able to share some of my experiences with you which will help us carve out new ways in the field of education and also the teaching learning process. As you can see, the title that I have chosen is Adapting to the Paradigm Shift in Teaching Learning Process, the Way Forward. And there was this intent of mine for choosing this topic was quite clear, because the kind of situation that I've just talked about and we faced in the last couple of years, it demands that we certainly think in terms of a very basic fact that we cannot afford to ignore as teachers. We must accept that teaching is a lifelong experience, lifelong learning process. And as a teacher, we have to embrace lifelong learning as a core value. This only can help us bridge the gap between the diverse professional domains that we are now trying to trade with. Now we are trying to just move in different directions, try and make sure that all these converge into the best possible style of how we can make ourselves or keep ourselves relevant for the learners. That's very important. We have often heard remarks from people saying that information is easily available. So the role of an information disseminator, or the one who used to give information, that is the teacher, needs to be changed. And that is a valid point, and I think that needs to be kept in mind. Now, today's educator has to provide a platform that values both depth as well as breadth while seeking knowledge. Depth focuses on mastery of content. Mastery of content meaning theories, principles, historiography, etc. While breadth hones and cultivates competencies and skills that are transferable to other areas. These include soft skills, for example, including communication skills, critical thinking, analytical reasoning, and problem solving. Now, this is what I call, and many others call, I'm not the first one to call it breadth, but this is the breadth while seeking knowledge that we are all trying to establish on a platform that we are building for our students. Now, competence comes through rigorous education, one that builds and sharpens the skills of critical thinking and analysis. The ability to understand the political, social, natural, ethical, cultural, and economic aspects of the world in which we are living. The ability to continue to learn and the disposition to be intellectually agile, to exercise judgment, and to communicate effectively. That is what is needed for competence. And this will come only through a rigorous process of education, learning. Now, that brings me to the next aspect, that the time has come when we don't have to tell our students what to think. Recall the times when we were students. I was a student in the 1980s. You people might have been a student slightly later, but up to the turn of the millennium, the teacher, a good teacher, was one who inspired you into thinking by giving you a kind of a blueprint as to what exactly should you be thinking about, what to think. Now the times have changed. We have to strive to teach them how to think, to give them the knowledge and skills to develop the courage to think for themselves and shape their own principles, beliefs, perspectives, solutions to problems. So it is a paradigm shift from what to think to how to think. हम छात्रों को ये बताना जरूरी है कि सोचना है, अगर आपको अपनी बुद्धि का इस्तेमाल करना है तो आप कैसे सोचेंगे, ये ज्यादा जरूरी है जानना कि आप क्या सोचेंगे. And this is where I think pedagogy must ensure a kind of an intellectual fearlessness and thoughtful leadership amongst our students. But the question is, how can we achieve this intellectual fearlessness? एक बौद्धिक निर्भयता, intellectual fearlessness. How can our students start thinking without being afraid of their thinking pattern being questioned by others? And that is where the role of the teacher becomes very, very important, right? Now, many scholars have the view that intellectual fearlessness is achieved through the development and enhancement of competence, community, and character. How do you ensure that the students develop intellectual fearlessness? You build up their competence in a way in which it will be developed as a result of their enhancing competence, their understanding of the community and their role within the community, because don't forget that the parents also have to be told that the old brick and mortar, the old chalk and board techniques have become obsolete. So that is important. And then, of course, character building. As I said, the ethical values and the morals that go along with the new vistas of learning, which have opened themselves for the entire crowd of the learners who are aged between, say, 15 to 25, necessitates that we work in this direction. Now, if you look at the last couple of years, the COVID-19 pandemic has forced us to leave the choice of distance education behind, what we used to call distance education. That choice has been turned into a compulsion. That challenge has been turned into an opportunity. Distance education is no longer a choice, but a compulsion that all of us have to accept and swallow this pill, howsoever bitter it may be. Now, we need to remember that this evolution is taking place across different sectors. The business world quickly adapted to employees working remotely during the pandemic. We have all seen how the business world adapted to the growing need of working from home in the light of the pandemic. Similarly, healthcare sector has adapted very well on its part. Earlier, video conferencing based solutions or telemedicine seemed to be a novelty, but now it has become a norm as well. Similarly, the markets are now getting into an increasing use of e-commerce. And all that means that we have to now think of new norms to meet new challenges, leading to the creation of new opportunities, right? Now, while I was thinking of coming and talking to you and sharing my experiences, I was thinking of the best possible way in which I could introduce you to the challenges that we are facing today of converting in-house physical classroom teaching to an online platform of learning and teaching. So I was thinking about that, and then I thought the best thing to do, and I was discussing with Dr. Dwivedi just now, a couple of minutes back, that I thought that the best way was to try and speak to some of my students, my own students from first year to third year of the honors degree. I asked them to narrate their own experiences, their own challenges, their own expectations as to what exactly do they expect from the teachers. I'm going to be sharing some of them with you, which will help us understand what we ought to do to meet these challenges and to make them happy and satisfied.
For a generation which spends so much of time on the internet, asked to transition to an online mode of education was a simple task, at least for many of us. And in the initial days, it was exciting. It was such a refreshing change of pace. Imagine being asked to attend classes from the comfort of your own home with your AC on blast every single day, at every single second, and just being able to sit on your own bed and work. But as the months passed, we slowly came to the understanding that this was not the way it was supposed to be. In the physical space, we are all equal. In a classroom, we all have an equal share of resources. We all can ask the professor at our own pace. And that equality essentially was gone.
So the COVID-19 pandemic has forced us to leave the choice of distance education behind, and it has turned it into a necessity and a requirement. Also, we need to remember that this evolution is taking place across different sectors, as I told you earlier. Now, distance education researchers all over the world are of the view that this will be a very efficient tool to take us through the next wave of higher education. And we have to act on it. And this is, as I said, a bit of pill, if it were, then you have to swallow it. That change is a compulsion and an opportunity. And what is paramount? What is paramount is the need to understand the students' requirements before we start educating them or talking to them.
One of the first things that the student body expects from the teachers and professors during a significant shift in the teaching learning process is the need to keep up with the times and change and adapt accordingly. The earlier methods of going about the academic space do not always apply to the present times, and to get stuck in those ways is really detrimental for the students. For example, something like finishing the syllabus in a certain time period for the examination cannot take precedence over something like taking into account whether every student has understood every step of every part of the academic syllabus or not. And in this regard, to look at the class as one unit is not really an accommodating way, because it is more beneficial to break up the class in, say, smaller groups or even individually, to keep up a dialogue between the students and the professors regarding whether they have understood everything or not, whether they are having any issues with acquiring the necessary resource material or not.
Now, this is a student of first year. She has not seen the college yet. She lives in Kolkata. She has been admitted to St. Stephen's, and she is sharing her experiences. She is not sharing her experiences. She is telling you about her expectations. It is very important to keep these things in mind, because the question of the quintessential educator, which is the topic of your seminar, then and now, is hovering up not only on our minds, but also on the minds of the students. That what is this teacher doing here? What is he supposed to be doing? Well, that is where you have to accept that you need to evolve, you need to change, you need to adapt, you need to accept rather than rejecting the change which you are witnessing, because you are no longer a repository of knowledge on the podium for the student, but you are a guiding facilitator by the side of the student. You are a facilitator. You are not a knowledge bank which will open in front of the students in the classroom and the students will listen to you and take down very religiously whatever you say, because they know that this piece of information is generally not available, and whatever is being said, these golden words of wisdom must be collected and recollected and remembered. This is no longer the case. Now, there are twin roles of a teacher now. First, you have to be an expert on the subject matter. There's no shortcut there. The second is that, and that is more important, that you have to be an engager or facilitator who engages the student in the first-hand learning experiences through hands-on training projects or experiential learning models. Both are very important. Now, how do we do that is another question, which I'll try and handle in a moment from now. But let us remember that being in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, teachers worry about replicating the traditional classroom material into online, how they could teach and what should be taught. These are the two important questions which we try to answer. And many a times we try and replicate the traditional classroom material into online resources. Let's hear it out from the students.
People just stopped attending tutorials when online classes started, and class attendance also dropped. Even if people attended classes, they would just keep very quiet, and there would normally be no interaction with them. So I think if teachers could take steps to facilitate more interaction in their classes, that would be very helpful. We could have something like breakout rooms, so the class could be divided in small groups, and these small groups of students can probably go into other meetings, into breakout rooms, and have a 5-minute long discussion on the topic that they were discussing in class. Something like a group project or a group presentation, where you actually have to plan that presentation with your peers, work on it together with them, would also help. So I think these steps would help a lot.
Well, the students are of the view that teachers should make every effort to use the available technology to make the experiences of distant and local learners very positive and equivalent to the in-house teaching. Now, the need of the hour is it propels us into moving even further from a teacher-centered to a more constructivist and connectivist, learner-centered approach, a shift from a teacher-centered to a learner-centered approach of learning. Of course, with so many options, it is imperative that instructors understand how the technology tools they choose extend and enhance student learning while being pedagogically sound at the same time. Simply put, the tool must meet the needs of the learner and align with instructional goals laid out for the courses offered. So, what does he need to do? New technologies, where technology should not be seen as a competitor. It should be seen again as a facilitator, including artificial intelligence, making it easy to absorb, making it learner-centered, encouraging collaborations. And pandemic has highlighted that adoption of new technological tools is something without which the teacher's relevance will get wiped away. I'm very sorry to say that, but we have to understand this basic. Let's hear it again from the students. What exactly do they feel should be done?
Even the teachers and professors are really trying their best, but there are many things that they can add more, such as creating some quizzes and games related, like scribbles, and there are really different features in Zoom as well as different apps they can use. They can search on it, which will be really helpful for students to study. And also, teacher can actually, yeah, there are many teachers are probably doing tutorials as well, but I would really like, or I would like to recommend all of the teachers to make some online videos and presentations, because now we cannot go out and we cannot have an offline classes. So it will really be tough for us to go out.
Let us listen out a few more students' views on it. What exactly would they like to be shown? What exactly is the way that they want us to adopt for teaching in the class?
Teachers can use the screen share option to share their screens when they are reading from a particular text or they are explaining something, and that really helps in better understanding of whatever is being taught. And of course, the use of PowerPoint presentations also might help since the mode is online. And lastly, it's also it would be good to have recorded lectures to be sent to students who were not able to attend classes for whatever reasons, because they tend to miss out things. And even for those students who would have attended but could not take down notes properly, for them to, it would be nice to have recorded lectures so that they can just go through it and write down their notes.
Well, I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but let me tell you that I have tried these methods out and they work very well. A simple voice recording of your lectures, especially for those who do not have internet connectivity and are in remote areas, you just transfer the file to them and they'll listen to it and they get back to you with questions, and eventually they are very happy. I have tried this out also with my visually challenged students in the past, and so have you. It works well. Well, in my college, there are very few students of Hindi medium, and these students are generally from areas, background, where they do not enjoy such privileges which the more privileged ones are able to enjoy. I spoke to one of the students who is from the Hindi medium and wanted to listen to his views as to what exactly would he be looking forward to see how teaching can be improved by the adoption of new methods and technologies for somebody like him.
पाठ्यक्रम के अतिरिक्त भी कुछ चीजों को शामिल किया जाए, जैसा कि ताकि जो ऑनलाइन कक्षा में जो विद्यार्थी हैं उनका ध्यान जो है वो भटके नहीं, कि उनका ध्यान कोई दूसरी जगह न जाए। इसके लिए ऐसा किया जा सकता है, कुछ रुचिकर वीडियोस और उसके अंदर डाले जाए जिनका मतलब पाठ्यक्रम से सीधी तरह से जो है रिलेटेड ना हो, लेकिन फिर भी उनमें एक पाठ्यक्रम का जो है सार सा आए। इस प्रकार के कुछ वीडियोस दिखाए जाने चाहिए ताकि जो विद्यार्थी है उनका ध्यान बना रहे, उनकी रुचि बनी रहे। और इसके अलावा हम ऐसा कर सकते हैं कि जो अधिक से अधिक प्रेजेंटेशन के माध्यम से समझाने का प्रयास किया जाए, यानी कि कुछ लिखित स्वरूप के अंदर दिखाने के बजाय कुछ अन्य रुचिकर जैसे कि चित्रों के माध्यम से, वीडियोस के माध्यम से किसी पाठ को या टॉपिक को समझाने का प्रयास किए जाने चाहिए। तो मेरे ख्याल इसके अंदर एक बड़ा सुधार हो सकता है। बाकी ऐसा देखें तो ऑफलाइन का जो है वो कोई भी विकल्प नहीं हो सकता है। इसके अंदर अनेकों परेशानियां पहले भी आई और अब भी आ सकती है, लेकिन फिर भी एक विकल्प के रूप में हम इसे देख सकते हैं कि जो कौशल विकास का विकल्प है उसके रूप में इसको देख सकते हैं, कि क्योंकि आगे हम नहीं कह सकते कि कैसी परिस्थितियां होगी, कब ये महामारी खत्म होगी, तो इसलिए एक विकल्प के रूप में हमें इसको रखना चाहिए। तो मैं चाहूंगा कि इसके अंदर कुछ रुचिकर माध्यम है, जैसे कि वीडियो जो कि हमें दिखाए गए थे कॉलेज के अंदर, उनको सभी लोग अपनाएं और उनको लागू किया जाए कि वीडियोस के माध्यम से जो लेक्चर्स हैं वो बताया जाए। उनको कुछ रुचिकर वीडियोस यूट्यूब से भी हो सकते हैं या फिर कुछ अन्य प्रकार के वीडियोस हो सकते हैं, उनके माध्यम से पाठ को समझाने का प्रयास किया जाए।
18 वर्ष का ये छात्र जिसने शहर बहुत नहीं देखा है, अभी तक नहीं देखा है, ये राजस्थान के किसी गांव में रहता है, ये कह रहा है कि कौशल विकास के विकल्प के रूप में आप इस नई प्रणाली को अपनाएं। You should accept it and take it forward as one of the choices, for one of the alternatives for developing skills, for skill development, right? Now, what do we do and how do we come to terms with technology and innovation in technology? We do have a plethora of media or technology tools at our fingertips. But before I go into that, let's listen to one or two more students' views so that you have a first-hand experience of the expectations of the students.
Because it was, I guess, a new method of teaching, it was mainly restricted to the teacher giving a lecture on the web camera. But I would also like if new methods of teaching were explored, new media, for example, displaying a source on the camera, or displaying any particular object, or using or other audiovisual means, videos, sources from other websites and things like that. And that would also capture the attention of students, which I felt was fading as the semester went on. So less and less people were attending classes towards the end.
Now, we do have a plethora of media or technology tools, as I just told you. We have tools for capturing lectures, we have tools for presentations and delivery of instructional material, a variety of learning management systems, tools for both formative and summative assessments, productivity and organizational tools, and above all, communication tools too. Now, all of these not only enhance our efficiency as teachers, but also enhance student engagement with the course content. Now, this brings us to the importance of professional development in tools, technology, pedagogy, and effective instructional strategies of distance learning. It is also important to understand the differences between what we are used to doing in the classroom and how we can transform that into an online curriculum. I repeat, what we are doing in the classroom and how we can transform that, not adopt that, into an online curriculum, right? So, as I said, technological tools are very, very effective, very helpful in enhancing our efficiency as teachers and also enhancing student engagement with course content. But we must understand and appreciate the need for all of us to update ourselves technologically, right? That is very important. And this need has been felt by the students. Just mark the words of these two students that I bring before you, what they have to say about how the teachers ought to master technology.
Professors were not equipped with the technological know-how to have conducted online education in a smooth manner. They tried their best, but even now we are at a point where we don't have a standardized or uniform method for certain important tasks like the submission of assignments or the recording of attendance, which I think the university could have further helped them in. The third limitation, which I found, was that spending consecutive hours on the screen with no external stimuli tends to exhaust one's mental reserves. Fewer and fewer students want to turn on their cameras in class, answer questions, and are unable to do so. On top of that, students and professors both are deprived of the connections that they would form in an offline format.
And here comes another one who has just pointed out the problems and what the professors ought to do. And now this comes from a slightly senior. She's from third year. She's seen the first years in the college, the first year in the college, the second year outside the college, and now the fifth semester again outside the college. Let's hear her out. Let's see what she has to say.
The first thing, of course, is tech training. Whilst institutions have hosted sessions to introduce the tools that will be used for these for online teaching, there is still a gap in the comfort level of different teachers with these tools, and they are still trying to balance learning new tools and techniques and increasing their engagement with students and providing them the support and training that they need. So I think we do need proper training modules that cover things from the very basics to alternative tools that may help increase engagement and interaction with students, that may help recreate classroom environments, to also understanding and training students in the technology then that they would need to be able to facilitate that interaction. So I do think we need proper training for teachers to provide them that support to be able to work in the online environment.
Well, before I move on to the limitations of technology, let me just remind you that the global education scenario is changing. And it is not just teachers, students, and administration's responsibility to shift their thinking. We need to educate the parents and the communities as well. They too, like many of us, are clinging to the brick and mortar model or the blackboard and chalk model, as we are products of that model ourselves, and we know nothing different. And we will need to take time to understand and help the parents and the peers understand the opportunities this new model of teaching and learning is actually providing to their children, rather than letting them feel like they are being left to struggle with their children with something that is really hard with very little support. This is also very important. Though you might say that how does it make a difference for a college teacher to educate the parent? Well, don't forget the home has been converted into a classroom, and the support has to come from everybody, including the parents. Many a times you would have noticed while taking an online class, the student gets annoyed when there's some background noise, when the mother asks, "Beta, darwaza band kar do," and the student gets annoyed. So what is it? They're not able to appreciate what the students are looking forward to. So this is where it's very important for us to try and spread the word around that the brick and mortar model needs to be given up. Though it was the model that we all were brought up with, but it has become anachronistic now. Online learning allows for students and teachers to dive deeper into a topic or subject and truly find the meaning of the origin. For example, in history, if students are interested in a specific event, distance learning could allow them to research videos, articles, biographies, etc., and not only learn about these events, but also the related events. Maths or other courses in distance learning could adopt the same strategy to show different activities and processes in action for solving the mathematical equations and experiments, right? Is technology enough? Can we survive just by adopting technology or just by training ourselves in technology? Well, you know the answer. No, it may not be enough. There is a functional complementarity between the teacher and technology. The two complement each other. The teacher's role cannot be undermined by technology, howsoever advanced technology it might be. One thing which nowhere in this world has been possible is for any artificial intelligence tool is to have the cognitive skill develop the way the human mind carries it with it. So it is very important. Where does a teacher come in when it comes to adoption of technology? How to choose the right tools for enhancing students' learning through engagement, the right tools. Technology is very helpful. It can be very supportive, but don't forget, it can be a distraction too. So how do you select the right tool and how to be pedagogically sound at the same time? How to enhance our own efficiency as teachers? Technology as a facilitator has its role, which nobody can doubt. The technologically equipped teachers have to engage with the students in a more customized manner at a personal level. And that is the first and foremost prerequisite if you want to be a successful teacher. You will have to offer. It may sound a little impractical. It may sound utopian too, to some people. But believe me, it is workable. You have to customize. You have to think of bespoke solutions. You have to have a one-to-one connect with the student to understand what is lacking and where does she need the support and what is the form in which the support can be provided. This is the need of the hour. This person that I'm going to be showing you the video of, he's again a student of first year. And my God, he's talking like many of us with huge experiences. Listen it out.
So when we look at what exactly students need and expect from their teachers and to increase engagement in the teaching learning process, we look at two key ideas. First being efficiency and organization, and secondly, responsibility. So when we look at efficiency in organization, we look at not only a macro level planning, which is understanding obviously how much time you're going to spend on certain units, how much time, certain units need more time, certain units need to be discussed briefly, which units need to be prefaced by a considerable introduction or foundation or some sort of background, but also the micro level, understanding and setting targets for a week, setting goals for a week, and trying to adhere to these and communicating this to the class or the process so that the process of achieving these goals can be collaborative. And at the same time, having a schedule that is that also is able to accommodate, say, and form a contingency plan if, say, these goals of certain weeks are not met.
You heard this boy. He was trying to tell you what we have been struggling with in our last semester. How to time it properly, how to decide the focus, how to pinpoint what are the things that we ought to do in a classroom, virtual classroom, what do we need to share with the students, how do we plan it out, how do you provide the introductory material well in advance for you to be able to excel in your role as a facilitator. That is very important. And this is what he was trying to point out. And it is very important for us now that we get into that customization mode where we try and interact with the students in 1 or 2 or 3 or max a group of 4 or 5 people to understand their needs, appreciate their needs properly, and then to try and provide the solution. I want you to listen to 1 or 2 other students also. They're all first-year students of mine.
I would suggest all of the teachers to do some important interactive sessions where students from different regions can come and talk with each other and discuss mainly about the classes. And probably, honestly, I would say when the classes are started, many students actually don't switch on their videos, which may actually not help them, and many times they actually don't focus what is going on in the classes. So the teachers should ensure that the students are active.
Haven't you faced this problem? Students switching off their videos, and you are still trying to figure out whether the person is there or not, right? Now, this is where you need to just have an interaction which is more of a personalized nature. This is what this girl was saying. Let's hear this other student.
I would like to say or suggest that the teachers can make the class a little bit interactive. They are doing so, but they can use different ways of doing it. I have in mind group discussions. Secondly, the teachers can be a little bit considerate because the whole mode of online education is a little bit anxiety-provoking thing. The student inside a room sitting alone, it's a very different environment, and that might make the whole situation stressful. So they can be a little bit considerate.
Dr. Verma, I'll come to you in a moment. Let me finish with this. I'll have enough time for interaction. I'm just going to finish in 5 minutes. And then Dr. Sandeep Verma, you've raised your hand. I'll come back to you. Well, having said all this and listened to my students and shared whatever I feel needs to be done, it is also important for us to have an assessment of the learning outcome, not in terms of what the UGC has come out with in the LOCF syllabus, but the need to engage with individual learners, students, for being a facilitator on the side. It works very well. It requires an extra effort on your part. You will need to give the students some time, extra time, beyond your classes and tutorials. But it works quite well. On my screen, it was showing that the internet is not stable. So can you hear me? Can somebody answer if I'm audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Now, the need to engage with the student to understand whether the student is benefiting from the interaction that you're having with the student or not. So this is also very important. And then we must try and see how the students want us to come forward to help them out in the situations, away from technology, away from the tools. What exactly is your expectation?
It's very important, especially in the online format where it's very easy to lose track and for people to drop off, for teachers to be able to gauge the level of retention and comprehension the class is currently displaying. And this can obviously only come about if there are open channels of communication, something the teacher must put an effort into by creating an environment which affords students being able to freely convey that, okay, this idea needs to be explained more, this idea has been explained very well, so we can move on and further and know at every point what exactly students need to, so as to adjust that. And lastly, obviously, is to constantly be able to reinvent and update what exactly this content should look like by knowing what exactly the recent developments in this discipline are, so as to give the most holistic holistic education for students.
The need for holistic education, not confined to mere technology. The need to bridge that gap, the physical gap, through knowledge imparting systems where your understanding of the issues that are bothering the students is very important. Now, the way we have seen the situation developing in the last couple of years, and when we look at the new pedagogical methods and tools, problems that we have faced, the problems that students are facing, we need to appreciate the psychological impact of the change. We need to appreciate the worrisome impact of the new system on the psyche of the students. And we need to understand how, when the first student of mine in his little narrative said that the system, in fact, leads to a realization of deprivation and inequality in many ways. And this is very important to understand and to appreciate. The need for tailor-made, customized solutions, keeping in mind also factors like the socioeconomic factors, which do not open up the vistas of new learning for everyone, where many of us, many of my students, many of your students feel cheated, they feel deprived, they feel neglected, they feel segregated. Who will do this? To address these psychological issues, who will come forward? No one, I and you. It is our responsibility, professional, moral, ethical, natural responsibility to look into this. Just listen it out.
Well, the digital divide is something which is very prevalent right now and which professors need to take into account while going about the academic learning process, the teaching learning process. Secondly, in this regard, mental health also needs to be given its due importance, because
Like sir has lost his connection.
क्या हुआ?
तो connection मुझे लगता है छूट गया है.
हमें देखकर चेक करना.
Ma'am, sir is in meeting and he is co-host, but वो I think उनका speaker में कुछ problem
हाँ, speaker नहीं connected है.
Yes, ma'am.
मे बी बैंडविड्थ भी लो हो सकती है ना, इस मारे भी हो जाता है कई बार.
Well, just call him.
Yeah, I'm trying to contact him.
Gone. These are the vagaries.
It's understandable, sir.
Yeah.
All are experiencing the same.
Yeah. So just a sec.
Well, the digital divide is something which is very prevalent right now and which professors need to take into account while going about the
divide and other what you call impact on psyche. On
You need to turn on your video. We can't see you.
Sir, we can also share your video if you.
No, there's nothing left, ma'am. I have shown almost everything.
Fine,
I have shown almost everything. I was just about to wind up.
Okay,
There's one video that I can send it to you, which is this is also that was important. I wanted to show that. I'll pass it on to your technical team. They can show it. It is from a student from a class where some of these techniques have been adopted, and what does he feel like, you know, as to what exactly has this led to. So we can show that a little later. Well, in the meantime, my connection can get restored, and that's not an issue. Now, what I was trying to, thank God the internet connectivity was lost towards the end. Well, if I have to summarize it, I can say what is the lesson that is there for us? Am I audible?
Yes,
am
sir.
I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can hear you. We can see you.
Okay, fine. I've deliberately kept the camera off because no, but it is on now. If there's some major issue, I'll switch off my camera so that the voice can, at least the voice could be reached to you. So what are the keywords here for us from all this exercise that I've just finished with you? Learn, adapt, adopt, facilitate, engage, and enjoy.
Yes, sir.
So,
right.
Thank you so much for this extremely invigorating and insightful session. And I think Principal Sir also wants to thank you because he was listening to your presentation throughout.
Yes, sir is not, he wants to share some video. Malay sir wants to share some video as well.
सुबह उनको विनीता उनको बोलो ना वो अपना वीडियो ऑफ कर देंगे ना तो शायद वॉइस आ जाएगी.
सर की वॉइस आ रही है. सर की वॉइस आ रही है.
अच्छा.
Answers, sorry, questions with your permission. Sir, can you hear us? I think his video has frozen.
No, he is not there.
Shy away. This is what I've been looking forward to. I'll keep my video off because that might help. I'm connected through the hotspot of my phone, so I'll keep my video off because the data access also here in this part of the city is not so good. So yes,
So we can hear you. No problem with your video. I mean, it's okay. We can manage without the video, and we can also run all your videos, student videos that you wanted to play for our participants in some other session with your permission. So first of all, I mean, before I take up the questions and observations from our participants, I would like to inform you that our participants are profusely thanking you for such a wonderful and fascinating presentation. And I mean, right from the beginning, I mean, you have you have voiced our concerns, and not just our concerns, teachers' concerns as well as students' concerns, because both are equally important entities in the whole process of teaching and learning. And from there, you have taken up to, you know, to break the various stereotypes that are associated with teaching community, and how you have given them a way to, you know, move forward and to become relevant in current times, and more especially, you know, with the Generation Z, you know, as they are known to be generations Zoomers and digital natives, and they have different kind of requirements and different kind of you know, needs. And besides that, one has to keep into account the needs of differently abled and also students who might be facing, you know, some kind of deficiencies and scarcities, and, you know, who are, you know, differently situated. So all of that, you know, keeping into mind, I believe that the job of the facilitator, educator, you know, is becoming too demanding, and yet it is quite inspiring, and it is quite noble. I mean, it is fashionably noble, I would say, because everyone seems to be referring to this this nobleness that is ingrained in teaching community. And yes, teachers very often try to keep their own personal interests, you know, aside, keeping in mind the needs of their students. And I mean, you have very, in a very engaging manner, you have informed us how to incorporate the traditional knowledge that has been handed down to us from the previous generation of educators, and also the new facilities, the new technologies that are there, and, you know, with the help of which we can customize our trainings and we can become more fruitful and you know, and also relevant in contemporary times. And again, the whole, I mean, the way you have decoded this the theme of our refresher course, the ideal educator, you know, the quintessential educator, and what incorporates, what encompasses this whole notion and this whole concept of the quintessential educator, who is basically a blend of the old and the new, paradigm, and yet has a lot to imbibe, to keep up with the requirements of the times. So thank you so much for your valuable time and willingness to share your extensive knowledge and experience with our participants. And from now here, I am taking up some of the questions that our participants have put forward. Dr. Ajit Kumar, our colleague and participant, extends his heartfelt thanks to you for deliberating upon the serious need to adapt the paradigm shift in the teaching learning process. And he says that technology is the strongest factor shaping the educational landscape today, especially in the pandemic scenario. But at the same time, we teachers often find smooth and effective integration of new educational technologies challenging, from acquisition of new technology equipment to adaptation of curricula and teaching techniques to incorporate new educational tools, etc. There are both external and internal barriers. Kindly shed some light on solution to these challenges. He's basically talking about access to technology.
This point was addressed by me towards the end of my lecture, if you remember, when I also shared with you views of two students who said that teachers need to be trained so that they are also able to train some of the students who may appear to be more knowledgeable than us in terms of coming to terms with technology, but they're not, because they are not amongst those who normally have access to. So we need to get into that learning mode fast, where we acquire training into technology and the different aspects of technology. For example, the Zoom platform. We are all familiar with it by now, only for, it is like, as one of them said in the interview that in the video that I played, one of my students said that it is nothing but lecturing on a webcam that we are doing. Now, webcam lecturing through the Zoom platform, the Zoom offers you a host of facilities. Similarly, the Google Classroom and the Google Meet offer you a host of facilities. But I understand and I appreciate what you are saying, because we need to be trained by experts in this field of technology. And I'm sure that with visionaries like Dr. Gyantosh Jha here, who has been organizing these very, very useful refresh courses, not only for the most kind of sought after objective of obtaining a certificate for getting a promotion, but also to learn something or the other. I think if you guys also organize something of this kind, if the Ministry of Education organizes a teachers training program catering only to the technological needs of those who want to be trained and acquainted with, at least if not trained, acquainted with the different things that they can do, the different assessment platforms, the different platforms for classroom teaching, that will be a good idea. And I have seen that there are people here in the list that you had sent me, Shubha, of the speakers. There are some topics there and some speakers there who specialize in this field, because I've seen that Dr. Charu Malhotra is speaking, and I didn't know about digital hygiene as much as I came to know after talking to her. So when you people try and speak to people who know the subject very well and try to learn, and it's not so difficult. Just imagine the first time you took a class on Zoom or Google Meet. What was your state of mind? And what is your state of mind today, now, right? Now, these problems will remain. For example, internet connectivity, which we are facing at this point of time. I'm feeling so deprived myself that, look, I wanted to end on a good note, but the internet went off just about the time when I was going to conclude. So these issues will be there, but we will have to mitigate these. We'll have to learn to come to terms with these, and we need a specialized training. At the same time, let me also emphasize one thing, that the best trainer is you yourself. If you keep experimenting with the different platforms that you have been using for teaching, you will find yourself, you come across new things, new issues, new designs, new facilities there, which you may not have even seen, right? So how do we do that? We do that ourselves. You know, we can't always depend upon books, trainers, people who are experts. I find it more difficult to grasp something from somebody who, I'm sorry to say, there would be people here from the technology field also, but I find it more difficult to grasp it when I'm being taught by somebody who knows the subject in and out. I want to learn it in my own way, and the best way is to learn through trial and error. That's how the primitive man learned. So the trial and error method is a very good method, but all that I want you to do is not to give up. You keep trying and keep trying different modes, and it'll help you out.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable inputs. And actually, that's the way to go about it. Everyone has to learn on their own, and they have to have this positive spirit to learn. So once a learner is always a learner, as they say. And as we are trying to inculcate the habit of lifelong learning in our students, we should also be ready to equip ourselves with whatever it takes.
That was my first remark, that we have to be lifelong learners.
Thank you so much, sir, for this input. And yes, most of the concerns have already been taken up by you in your presentation. Like you have already talked about, the evaluation and assessment, how we can use technology for evaluation and assessment, and how we can cater to individual needs of students. So many of our participants basically, needed your suggestion on that, but I think you have already touched upon those questions. And there is one participant, Dr. Gopal Kumar, and he wants to know, he has basically an observation. He says, कोरोना काल में ऑनलाइन एजुकेशन का चलन बढ़ा है, टीचिंग में तकनीक के इस्तेमाल से विद्यार्थियों को भी काफी लाभ मिला है। सर से मेरी जिज्ञासा है, टीचिंग के अलावा इवैल्यूएशन एवं एग्जाम में तकनीक के इस्तेमाल को किस प्रकार लाभकारी बनाया जा सकता है? आज के तकनीकी युग में शिक्षक की भूमिका में किस प्रकार के बदलाव आए हैं? सर, इसी से जुड़ा हुआ एक दूसरा प्रश्न है डॉक्टर प्रमिता. Sir, do you think the pattern we are following in OBE mode is correct, and it can actually evaluate the students' learnings? So this is, both the questions are basically related to evaluation and assessment.
Fine. Good question. I myself been worried about it. And I do not want to comment upon OBE. Being a teacher of this university, it will not be correct for me to comment upon the OBE. We all know, but I can only say one thing, that if your evaluation system is not up to the mark, the credibility of the degree is at a stake. अगर आपकी परीक्षा प्रणाली सही नहीं है, तो जो डिग्री आप अपने स्टूडेंट्स को देते हैं, उसकी महत्ता पर, उसकी साख पर सवालिया निशान खड़े हो जाएंगे। आज दिल्ली विश्वविद्यालय की मुहर देखकर बाहर के विश्वविद्यालय जो हमारी डिग्री को महत्ता दे रहे थे, उस महत्ता पर सवालिया निशान लगने शुरू हो गए हैं। इसीलिए अगर हम OBE कंडक्ट कर रहे हैं, जिस तरह से विदेशों में, जब मैं लंदन में पढ़ता था और पढ़ाता था, तब भी मैंने देखा और अभी भी मैं देख रहा हूँ कि वहाँ के एग्जाम्स जब आप लेते हैं, मूक कोर्सेज में जब आप एग्जाम लेते हैं, तो जो प्रॉक्टर्ड एग्जाम्स होते हैं, जिसमें जब इम्तहान देता है विद्यार्थी, जब प्रश्नों के उत्तर दे रहा होता है, तो वो क्या कर रहा है ये पता चलता है, पता रहता है। परीक्षा लेने वाला इसे देख सकता है। इसको हम कहते हैं प्रॉक्टर्ड एग्जामिनेशन, मतलब वहाँ इन्विजिलेशन होता रहता है। कम से कम छात्र को ये पता होता है कि एक जोड़ी आंख हमें देख रही है, और इसे पता रहने से बहुत सारी चीजें ऐसी हैं जो OBE में एक मजाक का रूप ले रही हैं, उनसे हमारा बचाव हो जाता है। और आप देखिए इससे क्या होता है, शिक्षकों में पूर्वाग्रह और मताग्रह, दुराग्रह तीनों पैदा हो जाते हैं। जब आप लेकर बैठते हैं किसी उत्तर पुस्तिका को, तो आप उसको पढ़ते ही समझने लगते हैं कि इसने तो सारे नकल करके उत्तर लिखे हुए हैं, और इसीलिए अगर उसका उत्तर अच्छा भी है तो आप उसके अंकों में कमी कर देते हैं। ये मैंने देखा कई लोगों को करते हुए, और इसमें कोई बुराई भी नहीं है ऐसा सोचना, लेकिन इससे उबर पाने की आवश्यकता है, जरूरत है। तकनीक को और परिष्कृत और सुचारू रूप से चलाने की जरूरत है, जिसमें जो परीक्षार्थी है उसके अवलोकन के लिए एक ऐसी प्रणाली का प्रयोग किया जाए जिस प्रणाली जो प्रणाली अभी विश्व स्तर पर उपलब्ध है। ऐसा नहीं है कि हम नई बात कर रहे हैं कि जिसके लिए किसी इनोवेशन सेंटर में या कहीं जाकर किसी इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर में काम करने की जरूरत है। प्रणालियां उपलब्ध हैं और पूरी दुनिया इस प्रणाली से परीक्षाएं ले रही हैं, लेकिन हमारी परीक्षा प्रणाली पे जो सवाल या निशान लग रहे हैं, जो एक मजाक सी स्थिति पैदा हो गई है ओबी को लेकर, इससे हमें बहुत दुख होता है, दिल्ली विश्वविद्यालय के लोगों को बहुत दुख होता है। और दुख मुझे इस बात से भी होता है और चिंता भी होती है और भय भी होता है, क्योंकि दिल्ली विश्वविद्यालय जब किसी चीज को अपनाता है तो देश के अन्य विश्वविद्यालय भी उसे अपनाने की कोशिश करते हैं, और इस तरह से ओबी को एक सफल विकल्प के रूप में जब पेश किया जा रहा है, और ये विकल्प उतना सुदृढ़, उतना फूल प्रूफ नहीं है जितना होना चाहिए, तो हमारे लिए समस्याएं हैं। इसलिए मैं तो यही कहूंगा कि प्रॉक्टर्ड एग्जामिनेशन या इंटरनल असेसमेंट का जो हमारा सिस्टम है उसको और फेयर करने की जरूरत है। जैसे मैंने अपने यहाँ किया, मैं आप लोगों से शेयर कर सकता हूँ। मैंने अपने स्टूडेंट से कहा कि आप लोग प्रेजेंटेशन बनाएं, और ये हैंड्स ऑन वर्क का ही एक नमूना है। और इस प्रेजेंटेशन को बनाने के बाद मैंने हर स्टूडेंट से 10-10 मिनट, 5-5 मिनट वाइवा कंडक्ट किया। तुमने क्या पढ़ा, कहाँ से बनाया, क्या किया। और हमारा जो सिस्टम था पहले, ट्यूटोरियल सिस्टम, उसमें क्या था, उसमें प्राचीन काल से जो आपके चले आ रहे थे ट्यूटोरियल्स, उन्हीं को कॉपी करके छात्र आपको दे देते थे और आप उसको मार्क करते थे, आधे मन से करते थे या पूरे मन से, ज्यादातर ऐसे ही होता था, और उसी के आधार पर नंबर मिल जाते थे। जब इसी आधार पर आपके परीक्षा फल को प्रकाशित होना है वार्षिक रूप से, तो ये नहीं चलेगा। अब नए इसमें बदलाव करने होंगे, जिसके लिए उपलब्ध जो तकनीक है उसको अपनाना होगा, बृहद पैमाने पर अपनाना होगा, वरना हमारी सार्थकता और डिग्री की सार्थकता दोनों साथ साथ खत्म हो जाएगी।
You are a new age educator in the true sense of the term, and we are learning a lot from you. And the way you curated your students' feedback and presented it before us so that we could take pointers for further improvement in our teaching pedagogy and teaching methods, that's extremely inspiring, and we would all like to incorporate it in our teaching learning process. Now, from here, I'll take up one or two more questions. There's Mr. Shanti Bhushan who says, sir, we can surely impart education through digital mode, but can we teach life skills the same way? As the medium is the message, students are more in love with the digital medium than the message.
Well, I want to quote here a very eminent person who said that medium is not all important. Medium is like a grocer's truck which delivers vegetables and grocery at your house. Medium is like the Pizza Hut delivery boy, right? It is important, but your content is also important. Both are important. Now, how to strike a balance between the two is what you need to do and what you need to master, right? So this is what I would like to suggest to you also. Don't let your own expertise lack anywhere. Don't feel constrained by the medium. Don't feel that the medium will let you down, right? One of my students told you that when his internet was not working, nothing seemed to be working, I used to send recorded lectures, voice recording on my smartphone, transferred to the smartphone of the other person. He would listen to it, then ask me questions. Now, the medium became irrelevant because the fellow was not able to attend classes, but he was able to listen. Now, how do we work under such kind of constraints? This is where we feel that we are taking the path to evolution. The adaptive strategies to survive within the constraints of the system. How do we adapt? How do we adapt and adopt? This is how we progress. This is how we evolve. Otherwise, my dear friends and colleagues, respected friends and colleagues, I do not want to sound very pessimistic, but let me exercise a word of caution. The teaching community is faced with the threat of fossilization. And if we fossilize, हमारी शिक्षक प्रजाति विलुप्तिकरण और जीवाश्मीकरण के कगार पर खड़ी है। अगर आपको जीवाश्म बनने से बचना है तो तकनीक को अपनाना होगा, चाहे जितना भी भारी मन से हो, ये करना होगा। इसका कोई विकल्प नहीं है, कोई विकल्प नहीं है। और ये आने वाले युगों के लिए खतरे की घंटी इसलिए है कि शिक्षक की भूमिका कंप्यूटर, गूगल देवता, आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस से बने हुए रोबो नहीं पूरी कर सकते। शिक्षक की भूमिका जो है वो रहेगी, क्योंकि उंगली पकड़कर चलाना लोग सिखा सकते हैं, बोलना सिखा सकते हैं, लेकिन भाषा कौन सीखेगा बच्चा, ये उसका माँ बाप ही उसे जो सिखाएगा वही सीखेगा। भाषाविद बन सकता है बच्चा, लेकिन भाषा अगर वो बच्चा शेर के साथ या भेड़िए के साथ रहता है तो नहीं सीख पाता है। इसलिए शिक्षक की भूमिका जैसी है वैसी बनी रहे। इसलिए मेरा आप सबसे अनुरोध है, इट इज माय मोस्ट हम्बल रिक्वेस्ट टू ऑल ऑफ यू, वी आर इनटू अ वेरी नोबल प्रोफेशन। Forget about what brought us here. Forget about हम किस कारण शिक्षक बने, इस बात को भूल जाइए। क्या आपके पास कोई विकल्प नहीं था इसलिए आप शिक्षक बने? भूल जाइए, आज तो आप शिक्षक हैं ना। आज स्टूडेंट्स हैं, छात्र हैं, तो हम हैं। आज हमारी रोटी दाल जो रोटी चल रही है वो स्टूडेंट्स के कारण चल रही है, क्योंकि उनको ये लगता है कि गुरुजी को दाल रोटी मिल रही है तो मुझे भी सीखने को मिलेगा कि दाल रोटी कैसे बनाई जानी चाहिए। इसलिए अगर आप जीवाश्मीकृत होना नहीं चाहते, अगर आप फॉसिलाइज होना नहीं चाहते, तो शिक्षक भूल जाइए कि आपका काम सूचना प्रदान करना है। सूचना प्रदान करने वाला संवादवाहक अब शिक्षक नहीं है। अब शिक्षक वो है जो सूचना का विश्लेषण करके छात्रों की बौद्धिक आलोचनात्मक जो उनकी मानसिकता है, जो उनकी सोच है, दृष्टि है, उसके विकास में अहम भूमिका पैदा करता है।
We are extremely grateful for your guiding words, inspiring words, and more particularly for the magical mantra that you said with the help of 5 keywords to learn, to adapt, adopt, facilitate, engage, and enjoy. I think that sums up, you know, the various goals that teachers should have before them, and how they have to become from being mere teachers or sage on the stage to enablers and facilitators who can you know, partake in the teaching learning process and also meaningfully engage the stakeholders. So sir, I have a personal query. I mean, it's just a small you know, curiosity, since I've seen your awe-inspiring and hugely impressive profile. So I just wanted to ask, you know, I've been performing multiple roles, and as it is, I mean, NEP and various other you know, teaching formulas and you know, approaches. They also say that teachers need to diversify. They need to venture and immerse themselves into various roles. So I mean, does it come easy? I mean, has it been affecting your health and your mental?
Let me be very honest. Let me be very honest with you. बहुत ईमानदारी से ज्ञानतोष भी सुन रहे हैं, ये उन पर भी लागू होता है। We take one full life to realize what we are best at. एक पूरा जीवन निकल जाता है ये जानने में कि हम कौन सा काम सबसे अच्छे ढंग से कर सकते हैं। Where does our potential lie? हमारा क्या पोटेंशियल है, हम उसको कैसे ऑप्टिमाइज कर सकते हैं, क्या काम कर सकते हैं। और इस पोटेंशियल को पहचानने और जानने में कई बार आप तरह तरह के रास्ते पर चलते हैं, तरह तरह की चीज़ें करते हैं। कभी आप मीडिया कोऑर्डिनेटर बन के प्रेस की गालियां खाते हैं, कभी आप अपने कोलीग्स के ताने सुनते हैं, कभी आप खेल विशेषज्ञ बनकर दुनिया भर के लोगों को रिझाते हैं, कभी आप छात्रों के बीच लोकप्रिय हो जाते हैं, कभी लोकप्रियता का जो ये एक आपके मन का वो ख्वाब है वो ऐसा टूटता है कि बिखर जाते हैं सारे ख्वाब यहीं पे। तो ये जो the process of exploring and optimizing your potential. What are you good at? What are you best at? all of you can ask yourselves, are you doing something that you always wanted to do? First question. Are you doing something that you are best at? Second question. Will you continue to do something that you are doing? Third question. And look at the answers. क्या आप वो कर रहे हैं जो आप करना चाहते थे? दूसरा, क्या जो आप कर रहे हैं वो करते रहेंगे हमेशा के लिए? या अगर आपका बस चले तो कुछ आप और करेंगे? यांतोष जी प्राचार्य हैं, हो सकता है कि कहीं ना कहीं इनके सबकॉन्शियस में विवेक तो कहते हैं, उसमें कहीं ना कहीं ये बात हो कि प्रशासक और शिक्षक दोनों का जो मिश्रण है उसमें हमें कुलपति बनना चाहिए, लेकिन कुलपति बनने के बाद हो सकता है कि इनको लगे कि दार्शनिक बनना चाहिए, क्योंकि हर कुलपति दार्शनिक हो जाता है। जब तक गालियां नहीं खाता तब तक दर्शन जगता नहीं है, और दर्शन तभी जगता है जब उसको ये लगता है कि ये जो कुर्सी और ये जो तामझाम और ये जो मीडिया और ये सारी चीजें मेरे साथ थी वो खत्म हो गई तो क्या होगा। तो इस तरह से लाइफ is all about exploration of your own potential. And I'm telling you from the core of my heart, look at my own diversifications that you've talked about. I don't want to blow my trumpet. I started as a teacher. I went and became a broadcaster. I was the first Indian to become editor of BBC Sports. They thought sports in India meant only cricket, but then they made me a consultant editor. I came back, started teaching. I started teaching mass communication. I too took a long leap into psychology. I started working on the stress evaluation system of students and teachers. I've developed a tool which has been tested by NASA, which is the best tool to test the stress levels and where's the stress coming from. Maybe sometime I'll talk to you about that. After some time, after 10 years, I left it. And now I'm working on psychologizing history and historicizing psychology. What is the role of human psyche in history? So I myself don't know what I'll be doing 5 years from now. People ask me to fill in the form for becoming a professor. Now college teachers are becoming a professor. My idea is that if I can write something on psychologizing history in the time that I take to fill this form, it'll be a much better, because I have reached that stagnation level within the associate professor scale where money is not going to make all the difference. Both my children are doing very well by God's grace. So I'm not so much worried about that, but I want to do something new. Now this urge to do something new, I'm not trying to sound very patronizing for those who are listening to me, बट मैं आपको बता सकता हूँ जो खुशी मुझे होती है, जो संतुष्टि मुझे मिलती है, मैं सच बताऊँ आपको, ये जो मैंने आपको आज प्रेजेंटेशन किया है, इसका कंक्लूजन एक दूसरे तरह से करना चाहता था। अच्छा हुआ आपने व्यक्तिगत सवाल पूछ लिया। मैं सबको ये बात बता रहा हूँ, आप सबको, कि पढ़ाने की तकनीक स्टूडेंट को कैसे सफल होगी, इसका एक छोटा सा उदाहरण, एक छोटा सा मुजाहिरा मैंने आज पेश किया है। बहुत सारे लोग खाना खाने के बाद 3 से 5 के बीच रिफ्रेशर कोर्सेज में, मैंने भी बड़ी झपकियां ली हैं। जो झपकी ले रहे होंगे, जब वीडियो चलता होगा तो उनकी आंख खुल जाती होगी। कुछ लोग कहते हैं क्या बकवास कर रहा है, जरा सुनो तो। बकवास क्या कर रहा है ये सुनो तो भाई, क्या कह रहा है। तो ये जो मेथड है ना, ये आप ही के कॉलेज ने जब मुझे मौका दिया था, मैंने सोचा भी नहीं था। ये तो संतोष भाई का मुझे ऊपर ऐसा अधिकार है ना कि ये कह देते हैं कि आपको इस पर बोलना है, मैं कुछ सुनना नहीं चाहता, आप आ जाइए बोल दीजिए। तो मैं उस समय भी यही कर रहा हूँ। तो मैं यही कह रहा हूँ आपसे कि आज जो मैंने किया है आपको, जो आज मैंने एक छोटा सा, मैं इस सबसे बड़ा, एक टीचर के लिए सबसे बड़ा अपमान है उसको ये कहना कि आप लेक्चर दे रहे हैं। ये सबसे बड़ा अपमान है। सबसे बड़ा अपमान टीचर के लिए है कि अगर कोई उसे कहे कि तू लेक्चर दे रहा है, वही ये लेक्चर देने आए हैं। ये अपमान ये है कि आप बातचीत करने आए हैं। मैंने जो आपसे बातचीत की, आप सोचिए, ये वीडियो जो मैंने आपको दिखाए, ये जो टेक्नोलॉजी मैंने आपको दिखाई, ये जो प्रेजेंटेशन मैंने आपको किया, अगर इस तरह से आप ही किसी विषय को अपने छात्रों को पढ़ाते तो उनकी ग्राह्यता, इसको ग्रहण आत्मसात करने की जो उनकी क्षमता है, उसका विकास कैसे होता। आप खुद सोचें, अगर इस तकनीक को हम अपनाते। तकनीक में कमियां हैं, लेकिन मुझे आप बताइए, आपके कॉलेज में कोई एक शिक्षक होगा, एक छोटा, एक कम उम्र का बालक होगा जो शिक्षक अभी नया नया बना होगा उसको पकड़िए, उसको कहिए कि तू आ, बता मुझे भाई कैसे चलेगा ये, इस प्लेटफॉर्म पर असेसमेंट कैसे, अटेंडेंस कैसे जूम से लिया जाएगा, गूगल मीट से कैसे लिया जाएगा। वो नहीं चाहते हुए भी आपको बताएगा, क्योंकि उसको ये पता है कि मैं एडहॉक हूँ। अगर नहीं बताया तो कल होके मुझे ये ज्ञान तोषी टेम्पररी नहीं बनाएंगे, परमानेंट नहीं बनाएंगे, मैं रह जाऊंगा ऐसे ही। वो बेचारा मजबूरन आपको सिखाएगा। आपको तो सीखने से मतलब है, किसी की मजबूरी, किसी की मेहरबानी से बन जाती है जिंदगी। बनाइए, सीखिए। लेकिन ये कहना कि क्या बकवास है, क्लासरूम नहीं है, कैसे ये हो सकता है, गरीबों अमीरों में भेद हो रहा है, ये हो रहा है, वो हो रहा है, वो सब तो हो रहा है, लेकिन हम सब झक मारकर अपना टीका लगवाने गए कि नहीं गए? जब पैंडेमिक है तो टीका लगवाना होगा ना। टीका नहीं लगवाने से, मैं भी कोविड में एक टीका लगवाया था तो बच गया, आपको लेक्चर दे पाया मुबिन, नहीं तो मैं वो टीका नहीं लगता तो नहीं होता। तो इसलिए मैं कह रहा हूँ, प्लीज डोंट टेक माय वर्ड्स, आई एम नॉट ट्राइंग टू प्रीच। मैं शुरू से क्रिश्चियन कॉलेज में पढ़ा, क्रिश्चियन स्कूल में पढ़ा, तो प्रीचिंग बड़े बेकार लगती है, खड़े होके बोले जा रहे हैं कि आप ये करो, आप ये करो, आप वो करो, आप वो करो। ऐसा मैं नहीं कह रहा, मैं अपने अनुभव आपसे साझा कर रहा हूँ। ये अनुभव आपके काम आए, बहुत अच्छा। और आपने खुद देखा, मैं कह रहा हूँ ना, आज हमने जो आपके बहुत सारे टीचर्स आए होंगे, बहुत सारे लोगों ने व्याख्यान दिए होंगे, मुझसे अच्छे वक्ता आए होंगे, मुझसे अच्छी बातें कहने वाले बहुत सारे आए होंगे और आएंगे भी। अब आएंगे वो इस दुनिया में, मुझसे बेहतर कहने वाले, मुझसे बेहतर सुनने वाले बहुत आएंगे। लेकिन जो बात मैं कह रहा था उसको आप तक कैसे पहुंचाया, इस बात का विश्लेषण करके मुझे बताइएगा। मैं आपके फीडबैक के लिए इंतजार करूंगा। मेरा बहुत सिंपल सा ईमेल एड्रेस है malayneerav@gmail.com, MALAYNEERAV malayneerav@gmail.com। बताइएगा कि आपको क्या लगा, और मेरी अगर ज़रूरत आपको कभी भी महसूस हुई तो सबसे पहले मैं आपके साथ खड़ा होने को तैयार हूँ। अगर कहीं भी मैं आपके लिए कुछ कर पाया, आप सभी इतने प्रबुद्ध शिक्षक बंधु हैं, इस समय 108 लोग हमारे साथ हैं, अभी मैं देख रहा हूँ। अगर कभी आपको कभी भी किसी भी तरह से मेरी मदद की ज़रूरत पड़े, मैं किसी लायक हूँ, जिस लायक हूँ, ज़रूर आपके लिए मैं काम आऊँगा, मुझे खुशी होगी।
You have satisfied, you have answered all our concerns and queries, and you have not merely imparted a lecture in a conventional sense, but you imparted life lessons to us. And I'm sure all our participants feel the same way. They are writing in the chat box continuously that they have taken a lot from the lesson, from the lecture that you imparted today. And I'm grateful particularly that you could generate enthusiasm and interest among our participants through your real life experiences. Your method and your approach was not only interactive, it was participative, and it was up to date, it was thought provoking, and it encouraged us to take up, to make our learning more relevant and more meaningful in coming times. If we have to be in the field, if you have to be in the business, as they say in the idiom, if we have to stay in the business, we have to learn the tricks of the trade. So it's just that, we are trying to update ourselves, and the process may take some time, but all of us are very prone and keen to change. And I can see that curiosity, that inquisitiveness, and that positive approach to change and learning in all of us. And on this note, sir, I think Professor Jha also wants to say something. He's looking at you. Sir, आप कुछ कहना चाह रहे हैं? सर, आप कुछ कहना चाह रहे हैं?
हाँ, थैंक यू सुभा। सबसे पहले तो मैं शुक्रिया कहना चाहता हूँ डॉक्टर मलय नीरव जी का कि उन्होंने समय दिया आज के इस बातचीत के लिए, संवाद के लिए। लेकिन उससे बड़ी बात मैं आप लोगों को बताऊं कि जो हमारा टॉपिक है, द क्विंटेसेंशियल एजुकेटर चैलेंजेस एंड अपॉर्चुनिटीज इन द चेंजिंग वर्ल्ड, ये टॉपिक का सुझाव इन्हीं का था, इसके ओरिजिनेटर यही है। तो मैं तो उसके लिए पहले इनको शुक्रिया कहूँगा कि, और हमारी मतलब अनौपचारिक भी बातचीत होती है, उसमें बहुत सारी चीजें हैं। तो मलय भाई, आपने जिस तरह से इस टॉपिक का सुझाव दिया, और मुझे ये बड़ा बेहतर टॉपिक लगा, क्योंकि आज के समय के अनुकूल है, समय की जो चुनौतियां हैं उसके अनुरूप है। और एक ये भी बात है कि जो एक अवधारणा है हमारे मन में अपने को लेकर के, शिक्षक के मन में शिक्षक को लेकर के, और समाज में जो अवधारणा है, तो वो कैसे अवधारणाएं बन और बिगड़ रही हैं और कैसे वो उसमें परिवर्तन आ रहे हैं, इस पर भी कहीं ना कहीं बातचीत करना जरूरी है, चाहे वो राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति को ध्यान में रख करके हो या कोरोना महामारी के आने के बाद जो स्थितियां बदली और हम लोगों ने ऑनलाइन या वर्चुअल मोड में अपने आप को शिफ्ट किया है, उस शिफ्ट को लेकर के हो, तो इस पे बातचीत बहुत आवश्यक थी। तो मैं तो सबसे पहले अपनी टीम की तरफ से, कॉलेज की तरफ से इस बात के लिए आपका शुक्रिया करूंगा कि आपने एक सुझाव दिया, बहुमूल्य आपका सुझाव, और मुझे बहुत बेहतर लगा। और जितने लोगों से बातचीत की मैंने और जितने हमने स्पीकर ढूंढे हैं, सबने इस टॉपिक को लेकर के जरूर एक बार सराहा है कि ये टॉपिक बहुत अच्छा है।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद ज्ञानतोष भाई, बहुत धन्यवाद। और मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा ये सुनकर, क्योंकि मैं बहुत दिन से सोच रहा था कि इस टॉपिक पे चर्चा होनी चाहिए।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल। और जिस तरह से आपने, ये तो आपकी अपनी शैली है और हम तो फिदा है उस शैली के, क्या हिंदी क्या अंग्रेजी, और जो अंदाज बयां है आपका, या जिस तरह से आप प्रेजेंटेशन करते हैं, जो बातों को जिस तरह से रखते हैं। अभी कोरोना से लड़ते हुए आपने सिनेमा वाले हमारे रिफ्रेशर कोर्स में बहुत बेहतरीन प्रेजेंटेशन दिया था, वो भी हम लोगों ने सुना और कई लोग इसमें उस समय भी थे, और आज भी हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं। तो आपका बहुत शुक्रिया, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, थैंक यू। लगता है उनका कनेक्शन फिर कट गया।
I take it to formal vote of thanks. Sir, formal vote of thanks कर दूं sir?
अब देख लो, उनकी आवाज आ रही है तो कर दो, इसके बाद तो वही बचा है।
Sir is there.
Sir connected to hai. Shubha, sir is connected.
Yeah. So I take this opportunity to extend my gratitude to our learned resource person, Professor Malay Neerav, for sparing his valuable time and extensive knowledge with all of us in such an innovative manner. And I would also like to express my hearty thanks to our Honorable Principal, Professor Gyantosh Kumar Jhaji, for providing this wonderful opportunity for collaborating learning. IQAC convener, Dr. Vinita Tulli, for her overall involvement and seeing into the various needs of the course. And to my colleagues from different colleges for their commitment to teaching and knowledge enhancement, discussion and patience. To the College Refresher Course Committee, to my colleagues, our technical support staff for their enormous cooperation. And without everyone's support and engagement and involvement, a session like this could not have reached to this level of success. Thank you, everyone. So we'll meet you tomorrow at 9:30. Vinita ma'am?
Yeah.
Tomorrow. You have something to add?
Tomorrow, 11:30, we'll be meeting. Fill in your feedbacks, your quiz, and we are sharing a video with you. And please go through it. There are 2 sessions in that. So you are going for the first session, the quiz will be given today. For the second session, the quiz will be given tomorrow. So go through those links. And plus the quiz will also be based on the 3 sessions we had, live sessions we had today, plus 1 recorded session.